my land, this is my country. And the other party also claims it is my land, my country. And they are fighting very gravely. Again, Krishna smiles. What kind of nonsense is this? They are claiming my country, my land. It's my land, Krishna says. And they are claiming my land and fighting. So yeah, everything belongs to Krishna. There's no such thing as this is my country, my land. All the lands belong to Krishna. But people, under their illusion, they are claiming my land, my country. And they're actually forgetting, how long am I going to live to call this my land or my country? So, again, it's illusion. It's not an actual fact. I think I left my pen over there. Yeah. So this is called, there's a Sanskrit verse which says that, it says, Pumsa Shriya Maituni Bhavam Etam Tayor Mito Hridaya Granthim Ahu Ato Griha Chetra Sutapta Vitar Janasya Mohayam Ahamameti. So this verse is the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, 8th verse. And it's a very interesting verse. It says, the attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So this aham mameti, this misconception of I and mine, is extended not only to the family, to the close and extended family members, but it also is extended to the concept of property, house, land, nation, ethnicity, nationality, and so forth. But actually we only live a few years in this world, and we're claiming so many things belong to us. But when we die, all connection to those things is lost. So therefore, when people are willing to kill each other for my land, this is mine, etc., it's a misconception. It's actually an illusion, because everything belongs to Krishna. Nothing belongs to us. And Bhagavad Gita is very specific about this. It says that Bhuktaram Yakitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Yatvamam Santim Richati. That Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices. He is the supreme proprietor of everything. And he is the best wishing friend that we can have. Knowing these three things, one can attain peace. Well, this Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he's the supreme proprietor of everything. And as long as we don't realize this, we are willing to kill, we're willing to die for things that don't belong to us. And we're claiming ownership of things that never belong to us. So, and therefore, it says that Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyas atma chetasa nirasir nirmamo bhutva yujasva vikataspriha. This 33rd chapter, 30th verse, it says that Arjuna, surrender all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, and with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, from laziness, fight. So, when it says nirasi nirmama bhutva, nirasi means without any claim of proprietorship. In other words, one should act only under the order of the Lord without any expectation of a material reward. This is essential understanding. This is what you could call a psychological purification, when we understand that this concept of nirasi, without desire for profit. As soon as there's a desire for profit, we become illusioned, become greedy. And in that greed, we can ignore the basic principles of decency and morality and ethical behavior. But that's on a lower level. On a higher level, we ignore Krishna, because he's the supreme proprietor of everything. So, therefore, and Prabhupada is making this point that here Arjuna is flummoxed. Flummoxed means confused, doesn't understand what his real situation is. And he's going through all these emotional states of distress, of crying. But ultimately, what is he doing? He's refusing to follow the order of Krishna. So this is Janasya Mohayam Aham Mameti. That is, Janasya Mohayam Aham Mameti. Ato Griha Shetra Sutapta Vitaya Janasya Mohayam Aham Mameti. That due to material attachments, one is attracted to the body, the home, the property, the children, and relatives, and wealth, and country, nation, nationality, ethnicity, etc. And in this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So, this moha, or illusion, Prabhupada says everyone is under illusion, under the same illusion. But if one becomes a little bit intelligent, if they can understand that this worldly position is simply illusion, everyone is an illusion in this world. They're assuming things that have never been true. An illusion is to believe something to be true that was never true. Just like I believe this is my body. That was never true. The body never belonged to us. It never belongs to us. I believe that the purpose of life is sense gratification. That was never true. We're not meant for sense gratification. We're meant to please the senses of Krishna. That's why we have senses. I believe that the senses belong to me. I can use them in any way I want. That's not true. They don't belong to us. They belong to Krishna. So this is an illusion, and everyone is suffering from this illusion. And based on this false premise of I and mine, aham mameti, people build up an entire complicated network of illusions. So the only way to break free of all this network of illusion is to accept, like Arjuna is going to do, Krishna as one's spiritual master, or a representative of Krishna as one's spiritual master, and spiritual masters, Siksha and Diksha gurus. And then one has a chance to get out of this illusion. Without the help of bona fide spiritual masters, it is impossible to get out of this illusion. One will remain in it life after life. Okay. So, Arjuna is the quintessential example of a person who's suffering from this janasya mohoyam aham mameti, due to bodily attachment, due to extending that attachment to others that are in a bodily relationship, due to false, xenophobic types of philosophies. This is my country, my land, these are my people, and so forth. The illusion just increases. There's no limit to it. And there's no limit to the suffering that people go through. So when Arjuna is a person who's deep in such illusion, and he's very perplexed about what is his duty, and he's talking with Krishna as a friend, but this friendly talk leads to nowhere. It cannot solve the problem. So, what does he do? Very wisely, he selects Krishna as his guru. He says, Sisyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. Now, Krishna, I'm completely confused. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in distress. Therefore, I beg you to accept me as your disciple and instruct me so that I have a chance to come out of this illusory state of mind and act effectively as your servant. In his state of perplexity, he can't serve Krishna. He sees no reason to follow Krishna's order. So that's what happens when people get distressed. They don't see what they should do. So Arjuna says, Karpanya dosa pahata svabhava prichami tvam dharma samuda cheta yat sheyaksyan nisitam bruhitan me sisyastiham sadimam tvam prapanam. He says, now I am confused about my duty. We've spoken many times about duty. Krishna consciousness is the highest threshold of duty. Duty means something you must do. And what is that? What is the most important thing that we should do in our life? That is to surrender to Krishna and serve him by following his instructions. That is real duty. So he says, due to my confusion about my duty, I've lost all composure because of miserly weakness. So a person who refuses to serve Krishna is a miser. What is a miser? A miser is a person that denies themselves the basic pleasures of life. Why? Because they have such a degree of greed that they're greedy with themselves. Their greed is so great that they refuse themselves the opportunity to be Krishna conscious. Not only do they refuse others, the greed is so profound that they refuse themselves. So, this is a miserly weakness, Arjuna says. In this condition, I'm asking you, Krishna, tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple, and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So this is what should happen when a person is overwhelmed by confusion and grief about what their duty actually is in life. And they become a miser. What is the ultimate miserly, let's say, opinion or miserly attitude? This is explained in Bhagavad Gita in the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, 3rd canto, 8th chapter, 10th verse. Yova etad aksharam gargyavit avidit vasmal lokat praitisa kripana. Kripana means miserly. He says, he is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human being, and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. So, if at the moment of death we're completely confused, we don't know what's going to happen next, and our whole life we've wasted chasing phantoms in the dark. If you chase a phantom in the dark, do you think you'll ever find it? First of all, the phantom doesn't exist. It's a construct of the confused mind. And then you're in the dark, you can't see anything anyway. So you're just seeing some illusory thing. So, therefore, if one doesn't use this life to solve the ultimate problem of life, that is birth, death, old age, and disease, and at the moment of death you die like a cat and a dog, cat or dog, without understanding the science of self-realization, that means you are a kripana, a miser to yourself. You refused yourself the opportunity to understand what is the purpose of life. You refused yourself to attain the purpose of life. You're no different than a cat or a dog. See? That's why the Prabhupada explains that the human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can use it for solving the problems of life. What's the problem of life? Well, due to illusion, we are unnecessarily suffering. That's a problem. Unnecessarily suffering. And so a person who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a kripana, a miser. And kripana, the opposite of kripana is brahmana. Brahmana is a person who's intelligent enough to use the body and the senses to solve all the problems of life. Ya etad aksharam gargi vidit vasma lokat praitisa brahmana. So this verse from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 3.8.10 first of all explains what is kripana, and then counterpoints that by explaining what is brahmana. Kripana is miserly due to this janasya mohayam aham mameti, this I and mine syndrome of illusion. This is mine, this is mine. I am identified with this thing and that thing, all temporary things. So due to that, one becomes, one ignores their duty in life, and they die like a cat and a dog. But a brahmana is intelligent enough to use the body, the senses, and all assets that God has given him or her to solve the problem of life, birth, death, old age, disease, by surrendering to a bona fide spiritual master and masters that represent Krishna correctly, and therefore no longer unnecessarily suffer. So, here Prabhupada next, he says, all this is exemplified by Arjuna. He's too much perplexed. He's talking with Krishna as a friend, but such friendly talks lead nowhere. It doesn't solve the problem of life. So therefore, he decides to formalize his relationship with Krishna. Give up this aham mameti, this I in mind. This is my family member, buddy, so forth. And now, to formally accept Krishna as his guru and stop this friendly talk and get serious about solving the problem of life. So Krishna may have or seem to have some family relationship to Arjuna. Yeah, Krishna's so-called mother is related to the Kuru dynasty. But, yeah, Kunti Devi is the sister of Kamsa. But that's not going to solve a problem. So, therefore, Arjuna wants to stop this informal relationship and wake up and realize Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It has nothing to do with this family relationship. He's more than that. He's the original father of all living beings. So, now he wants to find out how he can be enlightened by Krishna to overcome all this distress that he's in, and then act responsibly by following Krishna's instructions. So therefore, because Arjuna takes this humble position, now Krishna is able to instruct him. Now this is very important. People want to be instructed not by humility, not by accepting a humble position. They want to maintain all their illusions, and then at the same time they want to take a little bit of instruction as a formality, not seriously. And why? Because they see a way of benefiting materially from that instruction. Therefore Krishna says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam janasukritina rijana arto artarti so in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 13th verse, not 13th verse, but, I'm sorry, 7:15. Taturvidha bhajanti mam jana sukritina rijana arto artarti jana. She says, Arto artarti, arto jigyasu, artarti, yani cha bharatarsabha. So, the four kinds of people who are considered pious come to the Lord. They are the one who's in distress, well, that's Arjuna's case. They are persons who are desiring wealth, the inquisitive, and those who are actually searching for the absolute truth. So, people who don't surrender to Krishna, but yet come to Krishna consciousness because they're looking for a way to get rich quick. Because they see, if I could become a guru, then gurus get dakshina, and they get mahaprasadam, and they get a nice seat, and people open their house to them, and so many things, it's an easy life. So I want to become a guru. So I'll come, pretend to be surrendered, get a little bit of knowledge, and I'll go away and open up shop. I'll get into the ustadi business. So they don't really want to surrender. They just act like that because they have this goal. And as soon as they get a little bit of knowledge, they go away. It's like once there was a so-called disciple, and his guru was a doctor. So one time a farmer brought his horse to this veterinarian doctor, and the horse had somehow or other swallowed a coconut, and there was a big bulge in his neck. So the doctor said to his so-called disciple, he said, "Bring me a wooden hammer." So the boy brings this big wooden hammer, and the doctor's going like this, and then all of a sudden, bang, he hits the neck of the horse, breaks the coconut, and the horse swallows it, or throws it up, and he's okay. So this young acolyte, acolyte's a fancy word for disciple, that night he steals a wooden hammer and leaves. He goes to some far-off village, and he advertises himself as a veterinarian. So some man brings a horse to him. The horse has an infection in his neck and this little swelling. And he says, "Doctor, can you help my horse?" He said, "Yeah, I have a solution to this." So he gets the wooden hammer. He goes like a tick, 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 and the horse is going, ah. And he says, "Hold the horse." And he holds it. Bang! Hits the horse like that really hard on the neck, and the horse dies. So the farmer gets really upset. He said, "What the heck is this? You know, what kind of doctor are you? You just killed my horse." He said, "Well, I don't understand. You know, this hammer always heals everything." You know, he said, What are you talking about? You just killed my horse." So he takes him to court. So the judge says, this imposter, he said, "You know, where did you learn to be a veterinarian?" So "I learned from so-and-so in this village." So they adjourn the court, and they call the veterinarian from that far-off village, and he comes. And the next court appearance, the judge says, "Well, how have you taught this boy? You taught him to strike with this wooden hammer. He killed a horse right away." He said, "I never taught him that." So everybody says so. Is that your hammer? He said, "Yeah, it's my hammer. It's my wooden hammer." He said, "No, what can you explain yourself?" He said, "Yeah, I can explain." He said, "This boy is a nonsense. He was my assistant. And one day a farmer brought a horse who had swallowed some small coconut, and he was stuck in his neck. And I carefully broke it with the hammer, and the horse threw it up. But he thought there was some magical property of this hammer, that whatever you hit with the hammer, it'll be healed." He had no understanding at all. And he stole the hammer and ran away and claimed that he's a veterinarian. And the judge looked at the boy and said, "You're a nonsense." He said, "Thank you very much, sir. I'll take care of him." And he sentenced the boy to a long, long period of jail, and to be beaten regularly with the hammer by the jailers. Right? So you see, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And people who come to the Lord for material profit, you know, they are nonsense. It's not a, but still they're considered a little pious because they still come to the Lord. But if they run away thinking, "Oh, now I've learned everything," like that boy did, they just create a disaster. So this is the problem with the Mayavad philosophy. They have neem jnana, they have half knowledge. They don't have full knowledge. Therefore, whoever listens to them, it's a disaster in their life. So now Prabhupada says that Krishna assumes the position as guru and now chastises Arjuna. He says that you were talking so much big philosophy and big statements, moral statements, why you should not fight, but actually it's all nonsense. He says, "Asochanam vasochas tvam pragnabhatam chabase gatasam cha nanasanchanti pandita." He says, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So, Krishna is taking the position of guru. Guru chastises when it's necessary, not all the time, but when it's necessary. And he calls Arjuna directly a fool. This is he doesn't say directly to the fool. He says, while talking a very like a wise man, you're actually talking gibberish, nonsense. And Prabhupada gives an example of that. He said, this is a roundabout way of saying he's a fool. Just like a man might say to someone else, he said, you look like the man that stole my watch. Basically, he's calling him a thief, right? But he's doing it a little bit roundabout way, you know. He's not saying, you are a thief. He said, you look like the guy that stole my watch, you know. So, in the same way, Krishna said, you're speaking wise words, but actually you're a fool. Because a person who is learned, who knows that what is the body and what is the soul, he doesn't lament for any stage of the body. That's Krishna's point, right? Neither in the living nor in the dead condition. So, this is called jnana, real knowledge. Jnana means that you understand what is matter, what is the individual soul, and what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You don't mix all three together, like the Mayavadis. They say it's all one. They're all distinct. So, this knowledge of the soul and of matter, of the soul, and of the super soul or Krishna, this is more important than following religious formulas of morality and ethical behavior. It's more important. See? Because people can be moral and ethical and still commit sins. Just like there was once a Brahmana yogi. There was a yogi who was meditating near the house of a very wealthy man. Not in the house, but he was in the neighborhood. And one day these thieves and dacoits came and they were looking for that rich man, but the rich man was hiding. He ran out of his house with his family and they were hiding in a forest or somewhere. And the yogi was approached by the dacoits and they said, "Oh, holy man, yogi, you are honest. Tell us where the rich man and his family are hiding." So he said, "Yes, I've made a vow never to tell a lie. They're hiding in the forest over there." So the dacoits went there, caught them, killed them, and stole their money. So years later, when the yogi died, instead of going back to Godhead, Yamaraj came. And he said, "Hey, what's going on here? Why are you here?" He said, "I'm here for you." He said, "For me? Look, I'm a yogi. My whole life I did the austerities. I never committed any sin." He said, "No, you committed murder." He said, "What? What kind of murder? I never killed anyone." "Yes, you did. You told the dacoits where that family was. They went and killed them." So, "But I was just telling the truth." He said, "But the truth led to the murder of these people. Therefore, you're an accessory to the proof. And now you're going to hell." So wait a minute. That's why there's a difference here. There's a difference between the formalities of the principles of religion, of, let's say, the lesser criterion, that is morality, ethical behavior, and following your duty to Krishna. There's a difference. So Krishna is going to teach this to Arjuna. Arjuna, on the basis of morality, ethical behavior, is refusing to follow the order of Krishna. So that is not ethical, that is not really moral. The highest morality is surrender to Krishna and following his instructions. That is the highest morality. And this mundane morality can lead you to trouble. Although, generally, it may be a good thing, but in certain contexts, like the one of the yogi who told the truth and caused the death of a whole family, you become an accessory to sinful activity. Just like today, there are some Christians that have businesses, or who may be doctors, and they're asked to perform an abortion, And they refuse. They said, I'm not going to do it. They said, wait, it's your duty to do it. I said, no, my duty is to follow Jesus, and I can't be party to murdering a child. So it's not a child. It's, according to American law, it's not really a child yet. They said, well, you can make any definition you want, but it is a child. It is a living being. No, but you kill it in the womb. It hasn't been born yet. It doesn't. What's the difference? It's still alive in the womb. It's still a person. I'm not going to do it. He said, well, we'll put you in jail. So you put me in jail. You go ahead. This is happening now, you know, because they decide to follow the higher morality, following the word of God. Thou shalt not kill, right? You can make any definition you want. Oh, while it's still in the womb, it's not protected by laws of the United States. It is not really a person yet. Well, you can make all those false definitions, but that doesn't change the reality that it is a child, it is a person, and it should be protected. And the mother said, oh, wait a minute, no, this is my body. You have no right to tell me what I'm going to do with my body. Oh, no, it's not your body. That's the whole point. It's you belong to Krishna. I belong to Krishna. We can't do whatever we want. We have to follow Krishna's order. You see how this Bhagavad Gita philosophy is so important. It differentiates between this fake morality and real morality. All this fake morality today, due to false definitions and acts of Congress and this thing and that doesn't make something right. So, Prabhupada is explaining, because Arjuna was lacking in knowledge, he should not have presented himself as very learned. He did not happen to be a very learned man. He was consequently lamenting for something which is unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned. For him, there's no cause for lamentation in any stage of the material body. So, now Krishna says that, 12th verse, this body, either dead or alive, has nothing to be lamented. If the body is dead, it has no value. You can't bring it back to life. So why lament about it? You can't change anything by lamenting. And you can lament for thousands of years, it still will not come back to life. So there's no reason to lament for the dead body. And as far as the soul is concerned, it's eternal. So you should not lament for the soul. It's eternal. It cannot be killed. So even if a person appears to be dead, the only thing that's dead is the body, not the person himself. He doesn't die. So why should one be overwhelmed? Oh, my father is dead. But the body is not your father. The body is the soul. The soul is eternal. So why should you cry, or lamenting over a dead body? So Prabhupada says this knowledge is necessary. It's absolutely essential. Then in all cases one can be cheerful, because he or she is only interested in Krishna consciousness. There's nothing to be lamented for the body, either alive or dead. So that's what Krishna is instructing in this second chapter. See? It's a hard lesson to learn. In India, and in America also, in the South, you have professional mourners that are hired for funerals. Yeah. They have it in India, and they have it in the United States also. So when there's a funeral procession to the cemetery, and then they put the body in the ground, you have these professional whalers, and they cry and they pull their hair. Sometimes they fall down and roll on the ground. Like one time, many times, several times I've done funerals, usually Punjabi funerals. One woman or several women will start screaming and then fall down on the ground. You know, everyone's trying to stop them, help them, hold them, pick them up and everything. Well, they do it because they want to show that they're the most loyal daughter of the father or husband who died, the most loyal one, you know. So sometimes the wife doesn't do it. Somebody else does it to prove that they're more loyal than the wife. So it's sort of like a competition. Anyway, the whole thing is basically a hoax based on the false bodily concept of life. So, therefore, next Prabhupada says that this is the whole purpose of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, to become free of this illusion of I am this body, and to understand there's a difference between the body and the soul, and to give real value to the soul and its relationship, eternal relationship to Krishna. So, whenever there's some, let's say, issue about what is the truth, well, the highest threshold of proof or evidence is called Sabda Pramana. Pramana means evidence, and Sabda Pramana is the evidence of the Vedic scriptures. What is this evidence of the Vedic scriptures? It's Shruti and Smriti. Shruti is what Krishna has said, and Smriti is what Krishna's pure devotees have said, which is the same thing as what Krishna has said, basically. So, this difference between mundane morality or mundane duties and the highest threshold of duty and morality is also exemplified by the difference between the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas and the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the highest authoritative statements, and of the Upanishads, there are, Prabhupada says, there's 9 principal Upanishads in the 108 Upanishads. There's 9 most important. But Bhagavad Gita is also called Gita Upanishad. It's also an Upanishad. Upanishad, what is Upanishad? Upanisha. You come closer to Krishna through this Upanishad. If you just stick with the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it's meant to elevate you to the point of Upanishad, philosophically coming closer to Krishna. Right? Upanishad. Isa. Isa means Krishna. So, whenever there's an argument on some point, one has to give reference to these Upanishads, and that is called Sabda Pramana, the highest evidence, if you want to win the argument, right? So, there are 3 kinds of pramanas. There's Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Sabda. There are more besides that, but those are the 3 main headings of pramanas. And of those 3, Sabda is the highest. Okay, so Pratyaksha, we know what that means, is direct observation. Anumana is hypothesis. If there's smoke, you can assume that there's fire, right? It's called a suggestion evidence. You suggest that, well, I see smoke, there must be some fire. So, both of these, Pratyaksha and Anumana, can mislead you. Why? Because we have imperfect senses. We make mistakes, we're easily illusioned, the senses are imperfect, and we have a cheating propensity. So you cannot rely 100% on pratyaksha and anumana. But sabda, you can rely 100%, because the statements of Krishna, they're a priori truths. They're not relative statements. I think, maybe, it would be nice if it was like this. No. Krishna's words are absolute, because everything about Krishna is absolute. So, an example of that is, the conch shell and cow dung. The conch shell is the bone of an animal, cow dung is the stool of an animal. But Vedas say both of those things are pure. Now someone said, wait a minute. But the Vedas also say that the bone of an animal and the stool of an animal are impure. That's true. But the bone of the animal that was living in the conch shell is considered pure by the Vedas, and the stool of the cow is considered pure. So, but someone can say, oh, wait a minute, I'm a cow. Cow's just a stupid animal. I'm a human being. I have much more philosophy and everything. And a cow, I live in a nice house. Cow lives in a barn. I mean, I have a Tesla, and a cow, it just has its 4 legs and feet. I mean, that means my stool has to be better. No, that's not true. The Vedas say that's not true. The cow stool is pure. Now, and then Prabhupada mentions Dr. Ghoshal. They say Dr. Ghosh, but I think if you listen, he's saying Dr. Ghoshal. Anyway, I have to look it up. But he proved that cow dung is antiseptic. So, but see, that's real science. It's not junk science. You begin with the a priori truths of the Vedas, and you just demonstrate that it's, and you experiment to demonstrate the validity of the Vedas. That's what Dr. Ghoshal did. And in Ayurveda, the ash of cow dung is very purifying. It's used as, I have made the ash of cow dung and used it medicinally. You can purify water with it. You can take it internally. You can use it as a toothpaste. Many things you can do. Many things you can heal. It's very good using it externally on the body for different eruptions and so forth. Okay, so there are many statements in the Vedas which apparently appear to be contradictory to reality, but they are not contradictions. They are based on the experience of great sages and ultimately the statements of Krishna. It's based on transcendental experience. And we have to accept the Vedic evidence as a priori truth. And just like we accept a father and mother as being benevolent, and in general they are. They want to protect their child. So if they cook something and give it to the child and they say, please take this, it's good for you, the child doesn't say, wait a minute, I should question everything. How do I know it's good for me? How do I know you're telling the truth? No, the child says, okay, it's my mom and dad. They're not going to give me poison, right? After they go to college, then they say, well, I don't know if it's true that it's good, I gotta, look it up on the internet to see if it's true, I can't trust my mom and dad anymore, I did before because I was ignorant, but now I have knowledge, I can't trust them anymore. This is nonsense. So, and this is what has happened. Don't laugh. This is what has happened. Previously, the children, throughout their whole life, listened to dad and mom, right? It was a sacred thing, right? Now they go to college in India, right? And they don't believe dad and mom anymore. Is this true or not? Yeah. Before, there was no question. They would always listen to whatever dad and mom tell me. Now they go to college and come back and say, I can't listen to what mom and dad said. They're not educated. They didn't learn Freud and Marx and Darwin, so they don't really know. All they have is the Vedas, and that's all bunch of superstition. That's what I learned in the English college. It's all superstition. The Christian English college. You know? So they don't listen to their mother and father anymore. And they say, you know, you have to question everything. The life that's not questioned is not worth living. Oh my God, you know, it's a statement by, I think it was Aristotle who made this statement. So instead of following Krishna, now they're following Aristotle, right? So we see that, but here Prabhupada is saying we must learn to accept the Vedic statements as a priori truth. And this is what Arjuna did. Sarvam ritam manye yanman vadasi keshava. Nahite bhagavan vyaktim viduradeva nadanava. Not viduradeva nadanava. So he says that neither the demigods nor the demons understand that, but I, Krishna, I accept everything you have said as the truth. So that is why, because Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paravam Bhavam. Arjuna accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not right away, but after he heard at least 10 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, he came to that conclusion. That he's answered all my questions. He's not some ordinary man. He is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, I accept everything he says as the absolute truth. So, this is Sabda Brahmana. In a sense, once we accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the supreme authority in our life, basically, we accept blindly whatever Krishna says, right? Without any analysis anymore. We analyzed before, when we asked all the questions. Just like, you know, before I went to DYS, I had so many questions I didn't believe, and I wasn't sure. You know, now, but in DYS, they answered all my questions, so now I believe. So that's basically the way it goes. So as soon as there's Vedic evidence, you should accept. Then your knowledge is perfect, because you are accepting things from the perfect source. But that's what you do anyway. You learn not to accept the authority of your parents or the Vedas or gurus, and you go to college, and now you accept the authority of Darwin and Marx and Freud and this one and that one, right? Like you ask some person that's been overeducated in college a question, you know, and they'll say, well, this requires some analysis. You know, there is Kierkegaard that says that perhaps there is reality and perhaps there's not reality. But then Sorensen says that there is reality. And then this one says that... And at the end of that long discussion, you're more confused than before. They're giving all these different philosophers opinions, right? They can't say this is the truth. No, they say the truth is flexible. You know, so that's the result of too much education. Actually, too much nonsense. You fill the mind up with too much junk, and then you can't even give a straight answer to a question, right? Because you don't know what the truth is, actually. You know what so many opinions of different philosophers, but not what is the actual truth. So to save time, Prabhupada says, to save time and trouble, one has to accept the authority of Krishna. This is the Vedic process. And therefore Vedas say, Tad Vigyanartam Sabgurum Evabhikachet. In order to understand the truth, you must accept bona fide guru. And the original guru is Krishna. And present guru is whoever repeats correctly what Krishna says. If they if they differ even in one instance, then they are not guru. Even one instance, they're not guru. So in order to learn the transcendental science, one has to accept Gurum Eva. Otherwise, there's no possibility of getting out of the confusion and despair of material life. Therefore, the Guru has the right to chastise the disciple when they deviate. or when they speak nonsense. He has the right to do it. And the disciple should be happy to be chastised. That means the guru actually loves the disciple and is willing to take the time to clear up the confusion in the mind of the disciple. Just like a real son is never dissatisfied when the father chastises. This is the etiquette in Vedic culture. Even the father is sometimes violent, the child or the son tolerates. An example is Prahlad Maharaj. He was an innocent child, a Krishna-conscious child, but the father was torturing him. He never said, oh, all right, that's it, I'm done with you. No. So, Krishna, after Arjuna designated Krishna as a spiritual master, then Krishna stopped the friendly talk and said, look, Arjuna, although it seems like you're speaking wise words, you're actually a fool. Right? Because if you had knowledge, you would not be lamenting like this for the body. Therefore, a person who is wise laments neither for the living nor for the dead. And even Lord Chaitanya said, my guru said that I'm a fool. Now, is Lord Chaitanya a fool? No. But he accepted that in front of his guru. And this is this is the proper etiquette. No matter how great we think we may be, we should always be a fool in front of the spiritual master. That doesn't mean I act like a fool by talking nonsense. That means I should realize I don't know anything, therefore I should carefully listen to my spiritual master. Even though I think, just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was refused by Gaurkishore Babaji several times. Several times he asked him to become his disciple, he refused. But when he realized, and his father helped him realize, that look, you're approaching him and he's saying, look, I'm not educated, I can't read, you're educated, you know astrology, you know this, you know that, you have to find a better guru than me. He said, don't listen to that. He's testing you to see if you actually have the humility to be a disciple. So you go back and you accept him. And when Bhaktisiddhanta finally went back, I think it was the third time, and he said, if you don't accept me, I'm going to commit suicide. You are my guru, I don't know anything. At that point he accepted him. See? So as long as the disciple has this pretension of being more educated than the guru, because maybe the guru, just like Prabhupada when he came to America, sometimes he might have made some mistake in pronunciation or something. So someone thinks, oh, I have to correct him, he doesn't know what he's talking about. No. So, Lord Chaitanya, although he's saying I'm a fool, he's actually incarnation of Krishna. And Prabhupada said, even if you accept him as an ordinary scholar or man, still there's no comparison to his scholarship. Look how many times, how many different ways he explained the, what? Yeah, Atmarama verse, the great scholar from Kashmir, he could only give 9 interpretations of it. Lord Chaitanya gave 64. And the scholar, he was like amazed. He was like dumbfounded. He said, how is this possible? And then when he explained it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was amazed. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's incarnation of the guru of the Devatas. Huh? Yeah. So he's like top Vedic scholar in the universe. And he was just amazed. He couldn't believe it. That Lord Chaitanya had such knowledge of Sanskrit and philosophy. So, therefore, from the disciple's point of view, we should always remain a fool before the spiritual master. So, you have to select the spiritual master who's bona fide. who actually does repeat only what Krishna says and lives according to that same standard of behavior. So when you have someone as a friend, you're like equals. But when you accept someone as guru, and guru is always superior. He may or may not be formally educated, but if he's an expert in Krishna consciousness, then you have to subordinate yourself, not think you know more than the guru. Okay, so this without knowledge of Krishna, one can never really attain peace in life, because they won't know what the truth is, and they'll always be confused by different situations in life that seem to happen automatically without our doing anything. They just come out of nowhere. It's just like forest fire. You know, all of a sudden you're in the middle of a forest fire. You don't know how it got started, and it's life-threatening. And you know, the only thing you can do is like run as fast as you can to get away. Otherwise, you're going to die. You can't sit there and say, "I'm not moving until I figure out how this started." Oh yeah, but by the time you figure out, you're dead. You know, you have to get out. So the only way we can get out of this mess is by accepting bona fide spiritual authorities. And the most bona fide is Krishna and his genuine representatives. So now Krishna begins to, after calling him a fool, now Krishna begins to educate him. He says that Latvevaham jatuna samnatvam nemi janadi bhana chaivina bhavishyama sarvivayama takparam. Never was there a time, Arjuna, that I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings assembled on this battlefield. In other words, he says, never was there a time in the past when we did not exist, nor in the present, nor will we ever cease to exist in the future. So he establishes the full eternality of the soul. Not the body, but the soul. Now this is a major difference between Christianity and Vedic knowledge. With the exception of Jesus, everybody else, according to Christian philosophy, is born in a material body. They begin to exist when they have a material body. That's why they don't burn the body at death. They try and preserve the body, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. And their cemeteries are sacred. Yeah.
Obviously, if you follow Jesus, they say you will reach the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
What is the you that will reach the kingdom of God?
You, meaning your body. Because you did not exist until you got a body. And you will not go to heaven without that body. Therefore, even though your body might disintegrate in the grave, but all of the parts of the body are there, the elements are there, and you're put together at the resurrection of Jesus Christ. When the second coming of Jesus, he'll come and he'll raise everyone from the dead and make them whole again. And then he'll judge them. Those that were genuine Christians, they go to heaven. Those that were not so genuine, they go to hell.
When is the second coming of Jesus, according to them?
Well, they've been waiting 2,000 years. Many times people thought, like in 1850s, the Seventh-day Adventists said, 1849, Jesus is coming. They all collected on this mountain in Missouri, waiting for the second coming of Jesus. Then in 1914, the Jehovah's Witnesses said Jesus is coming, or Jehovah is coming. And instead of Jehovah coming, there was World War I. Yeah. And then every once in a while, in 2012, when Christian ministers said Jesus is coming, but But instead of Jesus, Obama came. So you see, they're waiting. And not only they, the Jews are waiting, and the Muslims are waiting. The Shias, they're waiting for the Mahdi. Mahdi is their savior. And every once in a while, some guy claims he's the Mahdi, you know, and then he usually gets killed by Mahdi. Yeah, he's the savior, supposed to come and wipe out all the demons, all the Sunnis, and purify the world and save everyone. And the Jews are waiting for the Messiah. Jesus claimed he was the Messiah. What did they do to him? They killed him. Because he was claiming to be the Messiah. Okay, so yeah, they all have this prophecy, and all the Abrahamic religions have this prophecy of this second coming of God. You know, where there'll be a final judgment. Okay, so yeah.
If they only believe there is going to be one life, similarly the Muslims also believe there is one life, then how do they explain that some guy is born so rich and some guys hardly able to even have a food? So how do they explain that part?
They don't. They say you just have to accept it. It's God's mercy. They don't have an explanation. That's the hole in their philosophy. They don't accept the full eternality of the soul before birth in the body, and after the death of the body. They don't accept the full eternality. So, except in the case of Jesus, they said he did exist before he appeared in the world, and in the world he had a body, and that body died, and it resurrected, and then went back to heaven. So they're connecting the soul to the body, right? But normal people like us, we don't exist until we receive our body. And when we die, you have to preserve that body so that you can be resurrected in the second coming of Jesus. So the whole idea of the... And they have this whole philosophy of there's a difference between the spirit and the soul. If you look up spirit and soul, you'll see all these Christian philosophers explaining the difference. Right? But Prabhupada says spirit, soul. Same. See? You see. So this is all based on incomplete knowledge. But here, right in the beginning of Krishna's instruction, he says, we existed in the past, we exist in the present, and we'll exist in the future. Not as a body, but as a pure spirit soul. Right? And then he says in the 20th chapter that the soul never comes into existence. It's always been existing. And it never can be killed. It's always existing. And then he says that 15:7, that Mamaivam Sajiva Bhuta Jiva Loka Sanatana. The Jiva is Sanatana, is eternal. Right? Now see, just like the Christians have this hole in their philosophy. They don't accept the full eternality. So Mayavadis also have a big hole. What is their big hole? They say that yes, there is a soul, but there is only one soul. The soul is not individual. There's only one soul. But what are they doing? They're contradicting Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter, 12th verse, Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, 7th verse, Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter, 23rd and 24th verse, where each time Krishna is saying that the soul is eternal in the past, in the present, and the future.
There is a commentary by Mayavadis on those shlokas. How do they interpret or how do they explain? They don't explain.
No, they explain. They juggle the grammar and they explain it. Yeah. So you see, they're saying that there's no individual soul. There's just this big Brahman. And how do they explain it? Gatakas potakas. This is the way they explain it. There's gatakas potakas. In other words, there's the great air, and there's the tiny air or space contained in a water pot. So when you break the water pot, that tiny air in the water pot merges with the great air. Or you can have a bubble of air underwater. But as that bubble is rising, when it hits the surface of the water, it bursts and joins the totality of the air. So they say that individuality is an illusion. It doesn't actually exist. There's only one thing, and that's Brahman. So they're contradicting all these verses of Krishna's statements. 2:12, 15:7, 2:23 and 24. What does 2:23 and 24 say? It says, again, that he says that achedyo yam madayo yam akledyo sosya evacha nitya sarva gata stanur achalo yam sanatana. Again, sanatana, right? The individual soul, right? The jiva is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. In other words, he's establishing the individuality of the jiva, and he's also establishing, it's already been established, the individuality of Krishna. Right? So, even if you say the individual souls don't exist, how do you explain the soul of Krishna? So, where does Krishna say that he's also eternal? Well, he says in the let's see, Arjuna says it about Krishna, and Krishna says it about himself. Let's see. Huh?
4.6.
Yeah, Jopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san. Well, he says that, he appears in his original transcendental body, meaning his eternal body, yeah. But he says in other places too. Let's see. Yeah, although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So when he says, I am unborn, that is, he was never born and he never dies. Whatever is never born never dies. But in the 10th chapter, let's see, Arjuna says about Krishna. He says that you are the Supreme Personality Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person. Purusham sasvatam divyam. So there he says it clearly. Purusham is personality. Sasvatam, original. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, ajam. Ajam means unborn. So, two things are validated. That Krishna is a person, and he's eternal. And each individual jiva is a person and eternal. Yeah. Chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. Okay? So, in many verses, Krishna says that the jiva is eternal. And in this verse also he says 10, 12 to 13, he's eternal. And also in the 15th chapter, Krishna says, no, okay, let's So let's look at the 10th chapter, verse number 2. Yeah. Yomam ajam anadim cha vetiloka maheshranam asamudha samartyesu sarvapapai pramuchyate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed of all sins. So when he says unborn, ajam, anadim, without beginning, that's clearly saying that Krishna is eternal. Only something that's born will die. If you were never born, you're only born in a material body. Your soul is eternal in a spiritual body. So, therefore, it's not subject to death. Okay. So we'll look at other verses. I'll find them for tomorrow, where Krishna clearly says that he is eternal, and he clearly says that the jiva is eternal. So therefore, if you understand that the jiva is an individual person, and the jiva is eternal in the past, in the present, and the future, and so is Krishna, then you can defeat Mayavad philosophy, you can defeat Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. You can defeat anybody. Right? When I say defeat, you can show the hole in their philosophy. And because of that hole, there are certain questions that the Christians can't answer. Like, if God is merciful, how come some people are born blind, crippled, and so forth? How come there's misery in the world? How come there's suffering in the world if he's a kind God? They can't explain it because they reject the idea of karma and many lives. Okay, so we'll stop right there. We haven't even gotten through 1/3 of this lecture. We're going to continue tomorrow analyzing this amazing lecture by Srila Prabhupada. He's going to go into great detail. He's going to quote many verses of the Bhagavad Gita and in Upanishads and Srimad Bhagavatam, defeating the Mayavadis and defeating everybody. So if you want to learn the philosophy, you just have to learn this one lecture. Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll continue again tomorrow at 7:30.